Well, thank you for that great welcome. Isn't it a good day to be in the house of the Lord? And ladies, I just want to echo what Lisa said. There are so many great speakers here today and ladies that are here helping. And really, I don't think there's a problem here that any of you have that someone here hasn't experienced. And so there's going to be a lot of really great presentations today, but please, if you do feel overwhelmed, come see us. We want to talk to you. We want to walk you through some things. I was asked to come here for two reasons. I work for an organization called WebWise Kids, and we travel around the country and we teach kids about internet safety, not just kids, but parents and educators, and we try to help people understand what's out there. The internet is a great thing. We need it. We use it. I use it every day. Wherever I go, I'm map questing or looking up information on my phone or my computer. But technology has just exploded, and we haven't been given a lot of guidelines about how to use it appropriately and safely. And so my job is to travel around and help people come up to speed on those kinds of things. For you younger ladies out there, you know probably exactly what I'm talking about. There's all sorts of things out there on the internet that we're getting involved in that may not be so great. And I want to talk about the pictures that people paint that may seem to be perfect. Maybe that perfect relationship, that perfect friend, and it may not be so perfect after all, thus the title, Picture Perfect, or is it? As we go through, there's a PowerPoint that's going to display on both sides, so I want to give you some things to think about. And on this next slide, it will show you just some things that I want you to think about here this morning. Who are your online friends? Who are you talking to online? Are you talking to people that you know in real life, or are you engaging in some sort of conversation with someone you don't know? And we can do that in lots of ways. I think one thing that parents may be overlooking is that kids are talking to strangers even in online gaming. And they may be playing Xbox or the PlayStation or the Wii, and we have the ability to connect with people around the world. And those are some fun and exciting things to do, but we have to realize that there are people out there that don't have your best intentions at heart. And they want to dupe you, and they will, and they do. And I've got some examples of things that have happened to children out there, young girls, young women. But I want you to really think about that. Who are you talking to online? What kind of information are you giving out? Parents tell people and teachers tell people, don't give out personal information. But what is personal information? You really need to think about that. You don't want to be telling people your full name, where you go to school, where you hang out, what city you live in, all those things. So we'll talk a little bit later more about how that expands into a social networking type of thing. But what kind of conversations are you having? We're finding in our studies that kids are very willing to have all sorts of conversation with people they don't know online. We're finding that 13-year-old girls will talk about sex with a 65-year-old man online. It seems incredible to me, because I know that a 13-year-old girl would not stand in the same room with a 65-year-old man and discuss things of a sexual nature. But for some reason, with that shield to the computer screen or that handheld device that we're using, we feel safe, we feel protected, we feel like we can engage in those conversations or have some fun and maybe go over the line a little bit because we're protected by our phone and by our computer screen. It's really not a good thing. People can find you through your computer. We have some my company does interactive software computer games to teach kids internet safety, and in one of those games we show you how somebody can find out exactly where you are through the IP address of your computer. So if you think you're safe by talking on the computer, you may not be. And while maybe the older generation is not real savvy on how to do that kind of stuff, and kids, that's one problem that your parents are having, is that you know so much more about technology than we do, and so it's hard for us to keep you safe. But let me tell you, the guys out there that want to hurt you, the older guys, they know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to trick you into finding you or to talk you into going away with them. And so we really want to think about what kind of conversations we're having online and who we're having them with. Do you feel safe with the information that you are sharing out there? Really think about it. Who are you talking to? What are you doing out there? I've got a little video clip. Again, when you see the screen, you'll just see some psychedelic stuff going on there, but I want you to listen very carefully to this next video clip that we're going to play. And you've got to picture a 13-year-old girl and an older guy talking with each other, and we're going to play that right now.
Meeting a teen girl online is actually pretty easy. You can go into any chat room and just start talking. Most of the girls are usually so insecure and desperate for attention.
Attention from older guys is totally flattering. They're so much more mature and understanding than the guys my age.
Age actually works to my advantage. They like to brag to their friends that they're dating an older guy, so I just play along and pretend I'm really
interested in the same things I am. You can talk forever and really get to know someone without worrying about looks or whatever. That's the best thing about chatting.
Chatting seems unthreatening to them, so they lower their guard. After a while, I start talking about how we're soulmates and how lucky we are to have found each other.
Other people don't understand. I know what I'm doing. If you really care about each other, there's nothing wrong with
meeting them is the goal. Once I get them out of their house, well, that's when things get really interesting.
Online predators know what they're doing. Do you?
So think about it. Could that be you? Could you be talking with somebody out there that really doesn't have good intentions for you? You heard that exchange, and you could hear how the predator really knows how to play into what the girl wants and what she needs. And I think, you know, with a lot of kids that are struggling, you may be struggling in school, maybe you're being bullied, maybe you're not getting along with your parents, you have a romance that's gone bad, and you find somebody on the internet who understands all those things. And that's exactly what these guys do. They know how to reach your heart, they know how to find where you are hurting, and that is how they connect. You know, we've always worried about children being abducted by strangers out there, that, you know, we teach kids stranger danger and don't talk to people you don't know. But that also goes on the internet. But the thing is, today, these guys are so good at what they do, they don't need to abduct you. They will talk you into going away with them. And it happens. It happens every day. We have recently in the local newspaper, there's a story. And the story's titled, Man 41 Posed as a 24-year-old to have sex with a girl. And this guy connected with this young girl online, and it says, going by Sam in their online conversations, Robertson picked up the girl at her middle school in October and drove her to the Back Bay in Newport Beach. Robertson was accused of sexually assaulting the girl and then driving her back to her home. He talked this girl into going away. He sexually assaulted her, and then he just dropped her off at home. It says officials declined to give the girl's age, stating only that she was under the age of 13. There's no one out there online that has your best interest at heart, really. You've got to be safe. You've got to make sure that you're only talking with people that you really know. We go to conferences all over the United States, and one of them is called the Crimes Against Children Conference in Dallas. And I was going to all the different workshops, and it was just amazing to me that these guys actually have clubs where they get together and they discuss the best way to get to you. They talk about their newest and latest techniques and, you know, what they can do to help you connect and what worked yesterday, and they get together and they're out there, they're deliberately targeting you. We have a video on our website about a young girl that was almost lured away by a guy. And she wound up playing one of our video games and was able to realize that she was being duped by this guy. But he was sending her gifts and presents. And he was sending her a little teddy bear that said, "I love you," two little bears connected together. And he kept sending her these gifts and telling her how much he loved her. And it turns out that he was wanted by the FBI. He was sending those teddy bears to all sorts of girls all over the country and having sex with very young girls. The reason I bring that up is in my trainings, I was in a training one day and a teacher came up and she said that she had a student in junior high and she had a little teddy bear sitting on her desk, and the teacher said, "Oh, where'd you get the teddy bear?" And she said, "Oh, my boyfriend sent it to me." And she said, "Well, who's your boyfriend? Does he go to school here?" And she says, "Oh, no, you don't know him." And finally, through a little conversation, she found out that her boyfriend was somebody that she'd met online, and he lived on another side of the country, and he had sent her that teddy bear. And it just amazed me that they use the same techniques, that they can, you know, they know what age range you are, what you need, what you want to get you to connect. For an online romance, predators want you to think that they're looking for relationship, for romance, for love. They're really not. They're seeking to use you, to destroy you, and to throw you away. The young girl in the article that I just told you about, that's a horrible thing to have happen. It's a horrible thing. But she's lucky to be alive today. She really is. I work with U.S. attorneys all over the country, and they tell me stories about when they arrest these guys. And they go out and they will arrange a meeting. They have one girl that was in this online romance with the guy, and they set up the meeting, and the police went instead of her. And when they find these guys, you know, the girl thinks that they're going to go off on this big romantic adventure, and what they find in the car usually are sex toys, duct tape, and a video camera. And so, again, you know, they don't have good intentions, and they just make a connection, and these girls think that they're in love with these guys. And I'm just so amazed that they said when they go to court, sometimes the girl is still, even though she knows he was going to hurt her, she's so desperate for love that she's still feeling very attached to that person. And so, again, you know, there really are no safe ways to meet up like that on the internet and through your, you know, your social networking sites and such. So online romance, we want to be really, really, really careful about who we're talking to. How do these people communicate, and how did the young girl in this article communicate? Through sexting and texting. She was texting, we should have another slide with that. She was texting the guy, and that's how they started out on a social networking site, and then, you know, she gave him her phone, or gave him her phone number, and then they began texting each other. And so I want to talk a little bit about our mode of communication today. How many of you out there text more than you talk on the phone? Most of us. We're texting. We don't really talk on the phone anymore. My kids are grown. I'm so happy my kids are grown, and I get to talk to you. My kids are grown. So they still have their problems, but I'll call my kids on the phone, and they may not answer, but I know they're going to answer a text message. So we communicate by text. I don't know what that's all about, but a lot of texting going on. So what I want to tell you about texting and sexting, though, is, you know, the pictures that we send out there. We've got a lot of kids out there that are taking inappropriate pictures of themselves, either nude or semi-nude, and they're sending them out there. They're probably not meaning to send them out there to the whole world, but maybe just that, you know, that one special person, that guy that they really like, and the guy says, hey, you know, just send me a quick pic, and I'll just look at it, and then I'll delete it. It won't go anywhere else. And then all of a sudden, the girl wakes up the next day, and the entire school has seen that picture. We've had kids all over the U.S. commit suicide because they've become so overwhelmed with the information that they've sent out about themselves. Not only is their trust broken, but now they've got not only their whole school, maybe social network after social network, seeing these photos. So you want to be really, really careful about the pictures that you're taking, or that you're allowing people to take. You know, even on your Facebook page, I always say, don't let yourself be tagged in photos, because you don't know when somebody's going to take a picture of you, maybe at a slumber party or who knows where. And, you know, some picture gets out there and it goes to everybody's social network. There are ways that you can keep yourself safe through that. But I want to talk about also just the legal consequences. If you're under 18 and you have a picture of a naked person in your phone that's under 18, you're possessing child pornography, and you can get in a lot of trouble for that. If you decide to send that picture out, now you're distributing child pornography. And so that's the message that our company is trying to help educators and parents and teachers understand, that when those pictures are out there, we're actually dealing in the realm of child pornography. And it can be very damaging. It can be very, very damaging to have a photo like that go out, and especially if you've sent it to somebody you trust, and then they violate that trust. Or, you know, even thinking through the consequences, it could get out there by accident. You know, you have that picture in your phone, you decided you don't want to send it after all, you forget to delete it, your best friend gets mad at you, picks up your phone and sends it to everybody. There are lots of ways those photos can get out there. So we want to be really sure that we're not possessing those photos, taking those photos, and sending them out, you know, for other people. It's so damaging. Again, it can be used for bullying and all sorts of things. So the photos also, in the story, when I was telling you about the U.S. attorney and the girl that, you know, they had the sting operation, this guy had talked this girl into sending him photos of her, just one by one. It started out very subtle, and then all of a sudden he's getting her to send more and more pictures. And then when these guys do that, they also will blackmail you. They'll say, if you don't do whatever I say, then I'm going to show these pictures to everyone you know, and it just gets out of control. But this family, when they went to court, the U.S. attorney there had a system where they could track where the photos go. When you take a picture on your cell phone, it has a date and time stamp and a location. If you have, any kind of locator device like for MapQuest or whatever on your phone, people know exactly where that picture is. They can, if you take a picture in your house, they can track that picture right there. And so they had a tracking device where they can track pictures of these girls that the predators get and they send out there, because they don't want those pictures just for themselves. They want to distribute them to their child pornography sites, and to, they have clubs where they trade pictures and post them all over the place. And so this family opted into a program where they would be notified every time their daughter's picture popped up on a website. So they opted into the program. 2 weeks later, they would get a letter every time that would happen. 2 weeks later, and 3,000 letters later, they decided they couldn't take it anymore, and they opted out. That girl's picture had literally gone around the world. And that's what happens when those pictures get out there and they get into the wrong hands. So the whole picture thing, picture perfect, it may seem like a picture perfect situation to you and a good idea to send that picture out there. It's not, ladies. I ask you to please really think about who you're talking to online, what you're talking about, what kind of information you're sending out there. And the other thing about pictures is thinking that you can just delete them, and that, anything you put out there online, it doesn't go away. We talk about helping kids create a positive digital footprint. The reason we say that is, on your birth certificate, you've got a footprint, and it's a print. No one else has a fingerprint or a footprint like you. And so you need to think about, when you're putting information out there on the internet, that you're making a digital footprint, something that is only you and that will never go away. You may think that you can delete those text messages, you may think you can delete those photos, you may think you can delete those comments from Facebook, but you know what? You can delete them and they're out of your view, but they're still there somewhere. They're never going to go away. Once you put that information out there in cyberspace, it's stored somewhere. That's how those systems work. I play a little game called, anybody play Words with Friends on their iPhone? It's a really fun game. It's Scrabble on your phone. And I thought it was really interesting because as I was playing that game, you can chat with the person that you're playing with. But once that game's over, the chat system is over, you can't talk to them anymore, and the chats all disappear. And so playing the game, I play with my husband, I play with my friends, and we'll have these little chat things going on during the game, and then it disappears. Well, I noticed one time that when my phone was, or the game was doing a repairing thing, it said, please wait, we're going through a repairing system. I thought all those chats were gone. Well, when it was done repairing my games, all of them popped right back up. So they don't get deleted. They don't go away. Nothing out there goes away. So you want to make sure that when you're making conversation, when you're doing anything out there, emails, chat rooms, texting, anything that you're doing, you're making a permanent digital footprint out there for yourself. And you want to make sure that it's a positive one, that it's a good one, that you're not having conversation or photos that are going to pop up later on in life. Okay, so the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about social networking and just my friends. Who are you talking to on your social networking site? There are a lot of different ones out there, but I think most everyone today, we're using Facebook. That's a big one out there. And I talk to students around the country, and I'm really amazed when I talk about how many friends people have. I have kids that have 500 friends, 1,000 friends, 2,000 friends, and what it's turned out to be is a giant popularity contest. And I think I can't even keep up with the 10 friends I have. How could you possibly have 500 friends out there? And so obviously, if we've got 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 friends, we're making friends with people we don't know, because we're opening our site up to the Friends of Friends option. When you open your site up to the Friends of Friends option, you're giving anybody out there the ability to take a look at what you're doing. And when you have a Facebook page, you have to think about what you're saying, what you're doing on there, because there are a lot of different people who can see that information out there. You may think it's all private, but a lot of colleges and universities are looking at kids and looking at how they behave in their social networking sites to help make that decision on whether they want them to go to that school or not. I recently did a presentation, and we had a guy that came, and he came up to me afterwards, and he said, we need your information so badly. I'm a coach, and I help guys get scholarships to get into college, and he said, can't tell you how many of my athletes have been denied a college scholarship because of what the university has seen on their Facebook page. And so it is something that can follow and can track you. So you want to make sure, you know, parents can see it, principals, coaches. Think about it. If you're open to friends of friends, people you like, people you don't like, maybe someone who doesn't like you, colleges, universities, employers, and again, the stranger and predator thing. And so you want to make sure that you really are only communicating on Facebook with people you actually know, your close, intimate friends. You don't want that thing open to everyone. Everybody's always shocked when they look at my Facebook page, because when you look at my Facebook page, it says I have 0 friends. Isn't that sad? I have no friends. But really, I don't think it's anybody's business who my friends are. And so there's a mechanism within Facebook where you can make it so other people can't go through your friends and look through all your friends. And I like it that way. I want to deal with my friends. Nobody else needs to know, you know, who my friends are and go looking through their stuff. People can send messages to your friends if they just look through your friends, and you don't have to be a friend. So there's all sorts of nuances. So I just want to say, you know, be careful, go through your settings, make sure you know who you're communicating with, make sure that you are really creating a positive image for yourself out there. You know, when you open up my Facebook, you'll see the story of my life, and you'll see that I do these presentations and that I love sporting activities, and that I just got married a couple years ago. If we were to open up your Facebook page here for everyone to see, what would it say? What would the story of your life be? Would it be a positive one, or would you be a little embarrassed? So you want to think about that. You know, we always say don't post anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see. That's just, if you can take anything away today, you know, that's a good one. So again, being very careful. When I was asked to do this presentation, they really wanted a strong message about being safe on the internet to come across. And as I was talking with Lisa about doing the presentation, she asked me why I got into this line of work and why I was interested in doing this. And I didn't really know what the conference was about when we first started the discussion, but I said, you know, I have my own story. And, you know, the internet wasn't around when I was a little girl, but I certainly know what it feels like to be exploited and to have your photo out there, and just the humiliation of having that information out there with not knowing who's looking at it and who's seeing it. And so I've got a clip. I'm going to show you a piece of my story, and then I'll tell you a little more about it. So it should come on here. I was born into a Christian family, and when I was very young, I was 2 and my brother was 5, my father left our family and went off with another woman, and we never saw him again. And my mom was very embarrassed and humiliated. It was back in the 60s, and you know, you just didn't get divorced in those days, and it wasn't a picture-perfect situation for her. And so we went home to live with our grandparents, and my mom immediately began dating, and she wanted, you know, a Christian home. And so she was dating a man in our church that was much older than her, and he painted a pretty picture for her, a beautiful house, a modest house. It was a nice little house, and they would get married, and we would all go be this big happy family. And she really wasn't careful about really getting to know who this guy was. And it turned out that he was a child molester. And so shortly after we moved into, the nice, modest house, he began molesting me and using me for child pornography. And it wasn't long after that in order to isolate the family so that we wouldn't want to have people come over, and he really wanted to keep us away from anybody knowing what was going on, he moved us into that awful house that you saw on the screen. And so my picture-perfect world immediately became absolutely horrible. And so I endured from the age of 5 until I was 14. I was used for child pornography. And to this day, ladies, like I said, you don't want pictures out there. You really don't want, whatever form, any way, shape, or form they're getting out there, you don't want to live your life knowing that those photos are out there. And I know for me that there are thousands of photos out there somewhere. I don't know if they were traded or what happened to them, but I know that they weren't just kept within our home. And so when I was about 14 years old, I decided to run away from home. And, they quickly found me and sent me down to live with my grandparents. But now I was a high school girl. I was a high school girl, and I was damaged. I was hurt. I was destroyed. And I was told to never tell anybody what happened to me. I was to shut up and go live with my grandparents and never say another word about anything that happened. And so as a young girl, you saw that very first photo there. And, when I was 5, I accepted Jesus. I accepted Christ. I wanted him to be my friend, my Savior. And it was just about 3 weeks later that this whole other situation, I got thrust into this world of just darkness. And I didn't know where God was. Where was he when all these horrible things were happening? And I remember praying every day, God, please don't let this happen again. And so by the time I became a teenager, I'd had it. I'd had it I had a father who abandoned me, a father who abused me, and I felt like God had abandoned me as well. And so I decided that I would live life on my terms and that no one would ever tell me what to do again, and I needed to kill my pain. And so I immediately found alcohol, and that was the answer for me. I loved to drink, and I drank, and I drank to die. I wanted to die. I did not want to live. But I didn't really know how to get out of life. And so I just lived it in a screaming rampage. And so I tried drugs, I drank, I slept with a lot of guys, I did a lot of things that I would later come to regret. And I've got to tell you, I didn't know what to do with my life. I just felt that it was ruined, and that, how could God love me? How could my own parents don't love me? My mom turned a blind eye to what happened to me. And I just felt like no one loved me, and I couldn't possibly be worthy of God's love. And then years later, after I took myself through this, this just wreckage of life, how could God love me now that I have done all these things? I knew better, because in that home, as odd as it was, that I was being abused and used for child pornography and all these things, we did go to church every Sunday. And I said, it's great to be in the house of the Lord. It's always great for me to be in the house of the Lord because it's the only safe place I ever had. And I did learn about a God who loved me. I just forgot about him in all my pain. And so I knew at some point in my life, I knew that I had to turn it around. I had to turn it around. I didn't know what to do, because I knew that if I continued on the path that I was on, that I would die. And then all of a sudden I came to the point where I wasn't really so sure if that's what I wanted. But I just didn't know how to get better. I had no help, and no one helped me. And so much in a church service like this, there was a man that came to our church. I went to visit my grandma years later. I was now a young adult. And there was a special speaker there that day, and he talked about the dangers of living a promiscuous lifestyle and all the things I was doing, and giving your life to God and letting him take over. And I didn't really know how to do that. But on that day, I got on my knees, and I said, God, I will do anything you say. Whatever it takes to make it right, to make my life right. Please come into my life. And then I went into another transformation where I thought I had to be perfect. So now I was trying to fix everything I had done in my past. And I was a perfect mother, and I was the perfect wife, and I was the perfect housekeeper and the perfect employee. And I went through life just feeling like I had to be perfect, and I felt like I was failing all the time, because let's face it, nobody can be perfect. And so I got down on my knees again, and I finally realized, and I never gave up the alcohol. I drank from the time I was 14 years old until I was in my 40s, and I always had that little crutch. You know, maybe sometimes I drank a lot, maybe sometimes I drank a little, but I always had that crutch. I mean, and I felt like I was justified. You know, if you'd been through everything I'd been through in my life, sure, you'd drink too. And so I used that, and finally I was able to give that up, and I was able to realize that I could reach up and I could take God's hand, and I could realize that I couldn't make up for the wreckage of my past. I really couldn't. I reached up, I grabbed his hand. There was nothing I could do, not ministry, not speaking, not changing lives. None of those things mattered. The only thing that mattered was that I reached up and I took God's hand, and he said, I love you. And I said, I love you. We love each other. And everything else that comes in my life is just a byproduct of the great things that God can do in your life when he turns it around. I want to echo what our first speaker said. And, you know, she talked about the Bible. And you may think that that Bible is a really old book and that there's nothing in it for you. But there are lots of things in it. And, you know, when I was talking, I'm going to kind of revert. When I was talking a little bit about the social networking thing, I meant to do this verse earlier, but it's so important. I just love it. Remember I said people have 500, 1,000, 2,000 friends, and it's a big popularity contest, and you think that's going to make everything better. Let me tell you what God says about that. In Proverbs 18:24, it says, it amazes me that God knew back then what we were going to be doing today. It says, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. So think about that. Think about who your friends are. And for me, I'll never forget the real turning point in my life. I had a dear uncle that was helping me through this process of recovery, and I thought the Bible was an old book and that there was nothing in it for me until he showed me a verse, Proverbs 27:10, that said, for my father and mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me up. Ladies, I don't care what you've been through in your life. There's a God out there that loves you. You may feel forsaken by everybody in your life, but there is a God out there that loves you, and you don't have to perform to make him love you. There is nothing you can do to make him love you. My last slide here, I'm going to show you. I had to make a choice, and you saw that in the video. I had to choose, and I had to choose to be free. And I want to ask you today, what will you do? What will you do? Will you join me? Will you be free? Will you choose to be free today? I hope you'll join me in that. Let's pray. Father God, I just thank you for today. I thank you for all these lives that are here, Lord. I pray that as we go through the day that we will open our hearts and our minds, and Lord, that we will be able to go home and really think about who we're communicating with, and make some changes in our lives if we're off the mark there. And Father God, I just pray that if there are those here that have been hurt and devastated in this way, that you would touch their lives and know that you are the only one that can take evil and bad and use it for good. Just be with all these beautiful ladies today. Be with the rest of the speakers today. And I just thank you. Thank you for this awesome opportunity for us all to be together in a safe place in the house of the Lord. And I just pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.